Bandboxes, a Regency history audioblog by Rachel Knowles. Read by me, Andrew Knowles. I am glad I bought my bonnet, if it is only for the fun of having another bandbox, says Lydia in Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. But what is a bandbox? What were they made of? How big were they? What were they used for? And, other than Lydia's bonnet, what else might you find inside a bandbox? We've taken a good hard look into Georgian bandboxes. The original bandboxes dated back to the 1630s. They were designed to carry the starched bands that were worn as collars. By the Regency, bandboxes had become useful for carrying all sorts of light items, such as women's clothing, but they were still called bandboxes. What were they made of? Bandboxes were made of pasteboard or thin wood. They varied in size and in sturdiness and in degree of security. What is pasteboard? Well, pasteboard is a kind of thick paper or board made from bits of paper pasted together. It's actually very similar to modern cardboard. There's this description of bandboxes from Modern London, published in 1804. Bandboxes, generally made of pasteboard and neatly covered with coloured papers, are of all shapes and sizes and sold at every intermediate price between 6pence and 3 shillings. Some made of slight deal, covered like the others, but in addition to their greater strength, having a lock and key, sell according to their size, from 3 shillings and 6pence to 6 shillings each. The crier of bandboxes or his family manufacture them, and these cheap articles of convenience are only to be bought of the persons who cry them through the streets. So bandboxes were typically bought from a street vendor, a crier in the quote that you've just heard, and they didn't always carry their wares about them, unlike in this picture here, where the chap is carrying all the bandboxes dangling from a pole. A newspaper in 1818 reported that a bandbox maker in Clerkenwell Green was fined 40 shillings for placing articles on the foot pavement. What were bandboxes used for, other than for carrying around bonnets so they didn't get crushed? They were used to transport any small, lightweight objects, typically ladies' clothing. In Georgette Heyer's book Devil's Cub, the Duchess of Avon is adjured by her brother-in-law to travel light. The Duchess took him at his word, and when his coach arrived in Curzon Street next morning, she had only one bandbox to be put into it. Jane Austen refers to bandboxes in her letters and books, and to judge from the way she refers to them, a bandbox could be used as a hat box, an overnight bag, or simply an overflow for whatever would not fit into your trunk. In a letter to Cassandra, written in May 1813, she wrote, "I have not quite determined how I shall manage about my clothes. Perhaps there may be only my trunk to send by the coach, or there may be a bandbox with it." In another Jane Austen book, Mansfield Park, Fanny Price has a bandbox in addition to her trunk, which was left in the hall. It seems that this was her equivalent of her brother William's portmanteau. In walked Mr. Price himself, his own loud voice preceding him, as, with something of the oath kind, he kicked away his son's portmanteau and his daughter's bandbox in the passage. A bandbox was a convenient piece of hand luggage when travelling, although it may not have been quite so convenient for fellow travellers. American Benjamin Silliman recorded his experience when travelling in England in 1805. He got into a coach in which he found 5 ladies were already seated. 4 of them carried bandboxes in their laps, and the 5th an infant. In so small a carriage and under such circumstances, you cannot but suppose that an additional one must have occasioned some inconvenience. I was obliged to sit sideways, with one arm out of the coach, and I found my companions so little disposed for conversation, and the situation so uncomfortable, that, before we had travelled a mile, I relinquished my seat in favour of the ladies, and mounted the roof of the coach. If someone lost a bandbox, or found one, or had one stolen, they sometimes put an advertisement in the newspaper for its recovery. These adverts give us an insight into what people carried in their bandboxes. In the Salisbury and Winchester Journal of December 1819, Mr. Pierce offered the sum of £5 for the recovery of goods, including a bandbox, lost or stolen from his bar. Lost on or about the 20th of September, a bandbox with a parcel from Mr. Pierce's bar at the Royal George Inn, Southampton. The advert went on to list the contents: lilac silk dress, lilac figured, satin bray with lace sleeves trimmed with rich lace, a pair of white silk hose, a pair of topaz earrings set in gold with a large topaz ornament for the hair, likewise a white satin hat with plumes, 2 books, and a gentleman's blue coat. It's not clear which items are in the bandbox and which are in the parcel. An advert in Draycard's Stamford News of June 1813 reveals it was not just female apparel that was kept in a bandbox. Taken up on the road between Wansford and Stamford on the 20th of May last, a bandbox containing part of an officer's military uniform. Whoever has lost the same may have it again on paying the expenses of advertising and applying to Mr. Saldarini, Windmill, Peterborough. And notice is hereby given that if the articles are not claimed within a month after advertising, they'll be sold to pay expenses. And finally, another more unusual item that was occasionally found in a bandbox. In 1813, the Bath Chronicle and Weekly Gazette reported that a bandbox had been left in a house in Walcott Parish, Bath, the same parish where Jane Austen once lived. The newspaper reports, whereas a female infant, newly born, was left on Saturday evening about 8 o'clock in the passage of a house, number 39, St. James's Square, in an old paper bonnet box, wrapped up in 2 pieces of old flannel. One piece had apparently been a woman's under petticoat, a small piece of calico, and a piece of old linen. The bandbox has a hole in the top, no doubt made on purpose to give air to the child. The box was tied round with a small pink checked pocket handkerchief, torn in 2 and knotted together. There has been a short name on the lid of the bandbox, but not legible, having been partly, and no doubt purposely, erased. Reward of 10 guineas will be paid by the parish officers to any person who will give such information as the purposes of justice and the nature of the case may require. The child is alive in Walcott Poorhouse, and likely to do well. This was not the only time that a newspaper reported the finding of a newborn in a bandbox. If you enjoyed this audio blog, you'll find that there are many more blog posts on our website, regencyhistory.net, all about people, places and life in late Georgian and Regency England. There's also a growing number of audio blogs here on YouTube. Thank you for listening.